As usual, an interesting guest. You'll say I always say this, but I do take pains to get interesting people on this show. And today with me is Sonia Gomes, who is sitting in the village of Sonia, prompting
Verna,
Verna.
in
Okay,
Salsette.
in Salset. Sorry, but I know Sonia more at the online level, and we have had many interactions and few meetings. I know her writing. I find it charming, interesting. She like most people in Goa today, getting published is a challenge. Getting published is a challenge. Uh, Waiting for space, fighting for space is a challenge. Getting the readers is a challenge. Maybe things may change with the online world. Sonia, tell us about Zorat Morot Goes My Village.
Uh, what would you want to know about Frederick?
Everything, how it
Thank
got
you.
started, what does it mean, why the focus on the village? There is, am I detecting a tone of cynicism? I know people like you and me have decided to stay on in our villages, so why complain? Or is it a complaint at all, or is it just a tongue-in-cheek piece of writing? Tell me, I've asked you so many questions, answer whichever
Yeah,
one you
I
choose.
know. No, there's nothing here. This I would never leave my village and go to any other place. I love my village. I really like to stay here, and I have no complaints about staying in the village. But the blog started. I had another blog that was mostly literary pieces or poem or something that I'd done after my MA in Portuguese. But this came out because one day when I had gone for mass in our church, and it was one of those evening masses on a Saturday, and it was full. There were a lot of people, and a lot of people had come down from London also. And they were all there, and we had already interacted. And when the priest started talking, he spoke as priests usually do. He told us about his trip to US and how lovely it was and how nice he had felt in the US and that. I mean, so far it was okay because priests do tend to tell us a lot about their trips. And then he said, then he paused for effect, and he said in Konkani, if you think when you go to London you will get a job, then you're mistaken, he said. And everybody, there was a little gasp, He said, you are mistaken. And then again, a bigger pause, and he said, if you, but jobs such as cleaning the toilets, bathrooms, and all are there for people. And I turned on very slowly to see how the people were taking it. They were completely focused on looking ahead. There was not a this, not nothing there. I realized, my God, what is this man saying? Here are people who have gone to make a living there, and this man, is practically this. The next day, when somebody I met, I said, Vikas said this. He said this, but it is not like the way you think toilets are washed there. Toilets are, you use gloves, put brushes, you use this. And I was horrified, that somebody should try to explain their job to somebody else, And then I said, why don't I write this? And that is how my blog started, because
There
more.
are there are a whole lot of cultural clashes going on in Goa at this point of time about migration, about aspirations. We'll come to that later. But to start at a slightly more basic level, because not everyone knows Zorat Morot. Just today afternoon, I asked you what is the meaning of Zorat Morot. So, but one point before that, okay, what I find fascinating about your blog is that it's trilingual. So, in the same article, you are using English, of course. At this point, you are using Portuguese and you're using Shashti Konkani, correct?
Yes.
So why this? Why? How did this come about?
See, I'm talking about my village. All these, I mean, some of the posts are not actual in the sense it is something that I'm relating from somewhere a bit older.
Fictionalized.
It's not exactly
Okay.
fictionalized. Most of the this are there, but of course I've added a lot of mirch masala to it and made it interesting. But the roots are there, and these three languages are used in the village. Konkani, of course, everybody speaks Konkani. Portuguese, the people who still speak Portuguese. But some years back, a lot more people did speak Portuguese, and a lot more people of those Portuguese speaking people have now died. And so we have. If you really go to see, we have very few Portuguese speakers in my village at the moment. Okay, at the moment.
But Sonia, it is a editor's nightmare because it's very unlikely that anyone would know all three languages. Someone like me, for example, I know English. I'm struggling with Konkani and Portuguese. Portuguese though is non-existent. So anyway, that's a different problem. What was the response you got to your trilingual post? Tell me.
I was amazed. The first post where I wrote about London, I spoke about this London, going to London and the thing. I was amazed at the amount of response I got. A lot of people wrote to me, some anonymous, but very nice things, and they said, "Could you explain this to us? What did you write this for?" And it was very good. Even now, if I write something, I'm sure I get really good response for it. The response is really very good.
Very interesting.
Say, oh, some people, older people will say, oh, in my time we used to do this. Oh, it reminds me of the time people from other neighboring villages, right, say to me Margaon, and all people say, Margaon, of course, is not a village, but some people say, oh, this really happened. My God, it reminds me of so many things.
Sonia, the village in Goa is a complex beast, no, in that sense. Dealing with it is a complex job. If you say the wrong things, someone will come and not like it. It'll offend even unintended person. So how do you negotiate that?
I think I've lived here quite a bit of time, by now. I mean, I know people very well, and yes, it is complex. There are different layers in the village, and like for example, now Consache Fest. I think I sent you this the except Consache Fest. All these years, I didn't even know it existed. I seriously didn't know the ramifications. I know there was that we used to go for mass, and they used to give us those sheaves of rice and paddy,
So what is the story behind it? What's the backstory of Consache Fest?
Consache Fest is
The sheaves of paddy. First sheaf.
yeah, sheaves of paddy on 15th August. We have this 15th August feast here, and they cut off the sheaves of paddy and they distribute it to everybody. But there's much more behind it, because one day somebody said, "Why don't you like things here, and why don't you just come and see what really happens on Constance Fest?" And I did. There were so many coconut baking contests. There were, women were playing that mitani. We call it mitani. I don't know what it's called in Bangladesh. Mitani, women joined together and they were playing and just breaking the coconuts.
What is mitani? What is mitani?
Mitani is a women, anybody can play it. It's like a grid. You make a grid, and then people sort of guard. There are two teams, and one team guards, and one team tries to cross the thing. Once you have crossed the thing, you're at the other end. Then the team has won. Something. It's not. There are more rules, of course, which I don't know. But it's a very interesting when you see everybody normally. In other circumstances, here you see people enjoying themselves and that breaking of the coconuts on the palm of the hand. I never seen that. I said, my God, there's so much in the village I don't know about. I only look at the front road passing by, and that's it. I have hardly. Now I know much more because I interact with a lot more people now than I used to do before.
That's what you're saying is so true, because the Goan village is like an onion complex with so many layers. So,
Yeah.
are you saying that writing your blog helped you to discover more layers?
Yes, it did, because when you write something, it's sort of you go on to the something else and you say, my God, I hadn't thought of this. When you sort of put it on paper and you say it is. Then there are other things that you remember from your childhood, and and in houses. How, for example, there is a thing that how marriages are this organized, arranged in houses. What do they do and how do they talk? All that stuff is there, which you don't think about it.
Yeah, maybe we are talking theoretically, so we should give the readers a taste of your blog. So if while I put you maybe off screen for a second, what you could do is to get your blog onto some screen sharing, and just maybe read one of your favorite posts from there, which which is a recent one, which talks about the usual things that Zorat Morat talks about. Just tell us when you can. Yeah, yeah. Come on. Fine. That's perfect. Please go ahead. Maybe you explain it, Sonia. You can tell us what it is, what made you write it, and give us a flavor of the language and how these three languages seamlessly merge into one another, which is an editor's a nightmare for someone like me, as I said. Anyway, but it's fun. It's great fun.
Shall I read?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Milagrin Portugal aqui, Osiamugo. Milagrin shall we go to Portugal? On this glorious morning, Gabriel Fernandes, affectionately known as Gabru to his friends at the bar de República, relaxes. Relishing the good news he has just received, his brother Zito, accompanied by his wife Chantal and their grandchildren, are coming from Portugal on a visit. Oh, what a pleasant time await the family, thinks Gabru. His peaceful reverie is rudely interrupted by their very talkative maid who has just returned from the market. Gabru Bab, happy tisot mere tu, kit bur hobar re. Truth is, Milagrin loves to hear Gabru's heavily accented Konkani. Gabru Bab, you look happy. What's the news? Ago Milagrin, Mugala Bao Portugal Axoniat Mugo. Milagrin, my brother is coming from Portugal. Oi, te got a Portuguese passport. Keloli kitre. Oh, really? Did he have a Portuguese passport? Teka Portuguese passport goros na. Teke gor thinga. Portugal. He does not need a Portuguese passport. He lives. Okay. You want me to read more?
It's very interesting. It's very interesting. But
Okay.
yeah, tell us maybe tell us in short the summary of the story and how it came about.
Okay. The thing is, I mean, I knew about this, and other people know that we are sort of steeped. There was a friend of mine who was studying in Portugal, and he once talked to me and said, people here in Portugal don't remember much of Goa as a colony. They know Goa as a part of India. And then I realized we were all of us so steeped in this Portuguese thing. We thought as though the Portuguese had just left some yesterday or day before, and we thought that we aren't caught in some culture bubble sort of thing, and we realized that it is no longer the same thing. No, that is what he told me. It's no longer the same thing. Things have changed even in Portugal, but people in Goa still feel that we are in this sort of a vacuum, a bubble where you go to a wedding, and the first thing the people will say, oh, the band will say, this is a Portuguese speaking people, and they will trot out that malhão, curudinho, and teroli loli, all that is trotted up. I mean, do people still have this in Portugal? I don't think so. They are folk dances. They may, I don't know.
We are caught in a time bomb. We are caught in a time bomb.
We are caught in a bubble, in a time bubble, where we think this is it. But Portuguese move forward, and they don't even want to think much about those colonies and all. It's not a very nice thing to think, no?
So for those who came in late, I just like to add that it's fine. I mean, you can join us at any time, but just to introduce Sonia Gomes, who is from Verna, and she writes her blog called Zorot Morot Goes My Village, which in English could be loosely translated to My Village Drags On and On and On. And it's a fascinating trilingual blog, which is why I dragged her here and asked her to talk as an excuse to talk about her times, her life, her writing. We have a lot more coming, including her times in as a college kid, growing up in the Goa of the 70s, and then about her illustrious family, which has a lot of more of other writers who have been with us for a long time. So, Sonia, tell us about your college days, growing up in Kamal College, I would guess, in the 70s.
Yes. Kamal College is, you could say, from Verna, it's next door to me. It's in Newing. So, I mean, when we joined Kamal College was not such a big college as for example, Dempe and Chogale and all. It was a smallish college and only women in it, And it was, I mean, can you believe it? In the final year BSc, we were only about six people. So it was a very small thing, and the nuns were very good to us. They were, because we were subjected to personal care for them, because We were few, and they wanted us to do well, and their college also would do well. Of course, it's done very well, but they were very strict with us, and they were very strict with us and saw to it that we studied. And I still keep in touch with the friends with whom I finished my graduation.
Who were the friends? You remember any prominent names, writers who went into writing?
I don't remember, but all my friends are particularly three or four of them. Most of them, I think, only two of them are here now in Goa, but the rest are all in the US or in New Zealand and Australia.
Lot of migration, that's true.
Fields. They are in different.
Migration is a strong part of the Goan reality, particularly now, and particularly Salsette and more the Catholic areas of Goa. So in that sense, migration forms a large part of your stories, Sonia.
I don't speak much about them. I was born in Kenya. I was born in my father went there, and I was born there, but we came back very early. We came back when I was about 6. We came back because we had an elderly grandmother, and my father didn't want her to be alone. There was my aunts and all were looking after her, but he said, "Why should they? I should look after her." So he came back, and we came back, and my contact with Africa and anything to do with Africa is very remote. I can't remember anything. I can remember Africa through the writings of other people. I can who just most of the things that there were a lot of girls who joined my college as 16-year-old, 17 years old. They had come from East Africa, and they were already. They were very well read. They dressed well. They were good in sports. They were amazing. Those girls who had come from Africa at that time. We looked like their poor relatives, they were very well read and studied well and did all the things. And but we did get along well with them. They were very polite. And I've written a blog piece about a friend of mine, Shelly De Costa. Now she's in New Zealand, and she had a little car, a Volkswagen Beetle, and we were 6 or 7, and then every exam, Shelly used to take us in her Beetle to the Choglia College because we didn't have a center then. And I always think how kind she was to sort of, take us all. See, we didn't even ask her, shall we come? We just put ourselves in her car and she took us, So it was a different feeling with them. It was really a very good feeling. And
I can identify exactly with what you're saying, because in the 70s, even in our areas of Goa, Bad days and all that, a lot of Africanders returned, particularly after Idi Amin, after Africanization in Kenya.
That is much later. Amin is much later than.
Yeah, but even the Africanization in the 60s, what you're talking about, the 16-year-olds.
That's true. Yeah.
So I'm calculating the ages. They came back and they lent a lot of vibrancy to Goan life. Of course,
absolutely.
In the 80s, perhaps they felt that it was time for them to migrate, so they also left Goa and migrated to other places. But today, Sonia, there is a new kind of migration where a wider section of the people, not just the middle class, the upper middle class, the village elites, but all sections are looking forward to some kind of migration. Would you agree?
Yeah, my village a lot of people from my village have gone to London. The biggest migration from Verna now is London, as is the what you call it, other neighboring villages. Like for example, if you cross the bridge and go to Agasai, that's half of Nagasai, Sirildam are all abroad and it's good because they learn a lot. Everybody learns a lot from migration. Your views change, your attitude change. You see new things. The children study well and all. I think it's a very positive thing when you want to go somewhere, and I think it's got because I know a lot of people. I usually say, "What do you do there?" What do you do there? Only thing I think it's a bit lonely in the sense that, like in Goa, then when in the afternoon, when you have time, you could go and pop into your neighbor's house, sit there and chat. You can't do that in London because one, there are a lot of shifts. People go to various places, as well as another thing, you don't want to go out. Probably you're very, very tired. But from what people tell me, it is a bit lonely. But there are other things like Saibin is there. Everybody has Saibin. There are feasts of St. Francis Xavier and the other village feasts, depending on which village you're from. Those are all celebrated with enthusiasm, gusto, a lot of food, everything.
Like you, I'm not pessimistic about out migration and its impact. Of course, maybe in a cyber-driven world, we need to build the contacts, and we need to see how people can keep one foot here so that they don't get totally, disinherited from their own societies, and all those kind of issues are there. But these are some things that your blog also raises in a slightly tongue-in-cheek manner. Would that be right to call it tongue-in-cheek?
Yes, I think so. I think so. Some of the things are tangible.
But in Goa we have this kind of class structure where the old Bhatkar has been looking down on the general populace. So I guess our generation, we have much less of it than maybe past generations might have had. We don't suffer from that so much. But how do you extricate yourself from people thinking that you're being condescending to that? Has anyone ever said that?
I didn't understand. I didn't understand your question.
Do people see your writing as patronizing to them?
No, nobody sees it as patronizing. And like I told you, people call me and say, "Oh, see, if when you write something like what I write, there are different aspects to it. Some person may take it and say, "Oh, wow, this is the thing I remember from my childhood." Like one lady from Shishiri wrote to me and said, "Look, this I absolutely remember this happening to me." And because it's not one incident, it is sort of all sort of villages function in more or less the same way. In South India, more or less same. No, I've not had much negative this. Yeah, once or twice, but I've had a little bit of a negative things from Africa people. They said, "How could you write this about us?" I said, the thing is, I had written that the first wave of Africa people who had already gone and settled there in London, they were doing well, but they didn't show any of their Goan roots. They were practically European. They behaved like European. And I used a phrase which Mia Couto uses, the Mozambican writer Mia Couto, coconuts, brown on the outside, white on the inside. And then the Africans got, "How could you write this to us?" I said, "I'm very sorry." I said, "It is you who gave me this information. I don't know anything about Africa and London." I said, "You, your talk have given me this, and African." Somebody else who remained anonymous said, "Absolutely correct. What you said is absolutely correct. This is the first wave of the Britishers. Do treat the second wave not at all well."
Very interesting, very interesting. Of course, in Goa there are all these different layers, and
this is in London. This is not Goa. This is London.
But among Goans, there are all these different layers, and each one sees the world from their perspective, and it's important to bring in more perspectives. And I think the Salsette perspective of Goan life has not been widely represented in the English language. Maybe in Portuguese and all there is a lot, no doubt. But in English, would you agree that there are fewer Salsette voices today, or would you think so?
I'm thinking, yeah, probably about Bardesh has been represented. A lot of people have written about Bardesh. I don't think people have written much about South. Or it is, if it's written, it will be written in a strange sort of way. With always that Barkar there or something like that. Seriously, villages have moved away from all that, and they are in a different phase altogether.
Yeah, that reminds me, there was a time where it was easier for someone from Bades or Tiswadi to get a job in Herald simply because of proximity. Herald was closer to us, so we could do night shifts and all these kind of things. So even when it comes to getting access to the media and all, anyway, these are different issues. Tell us about your studies, Sonia. You've done your MA in Portuguese also.
I did my BSc in Commerce, like I told you. Then it was a long time. I had a long break in between. I basically worked for a long time as a translator. I do translations, and my husband works for the railway, so we have been all over India. But it is in Hyderabad that because I know Portuguese, I decided to learn Spanish also, because it's much, it is easy as well it's difficult. Anyway, I learned Spanish, so I got into this translation. So I've been out for a long time doing this translation. Then as I said, why I would like to do my post graduation. And then I wrote to the university and I said, "See, it's been a long time since I studied, and I would like to do my MA." And I said to the lady, I said, "I'm an old person." So she said to me, "Inga department and Portuguese department, so she said, everybody who comes to the Portuguese department is old." At that time when I did it about 11 years back. Then I said it's okay. So I had to answer one small test for eligibility and
Change
all.
of faculty. Change of faculty. Yeah.
Change of faculty, yes, okay. It was very interesting. I loved every minute of it, The professors were good. Everybody, I really learned a lot. I never thought there was so much to learn, but I did really learn a lot. It was excellent, really excellent. I
I
had
think
very nice.
I think for a growing society like Goa, which has a lower birth rate and things like that, lifelong learning should be part of the thing.
Yeah, it's interesting. You will get to learn. I don't know. From my point of view, I thought I'd learned a lot, which opened afterwards. You go into other things, you start learning other things and all because you already know so much. And you said, why shouldn't I deepen my this what do you call it knowledge and learn more things or read more things and things like that.
So who were the professors there at that stage? Delphine Correa?
Delphine Correa was there, Mariducho Barreto, and Maris de Lima,
De
and
Lima.
uh, three of them. Yeah.
2010. This is or 2000 when?
This is in 2007. No, 9 to 11. 9 to 11.
So you would recommend the Portuguese course for those who have a graduate degree to carry on their masters?
Yeah, why not? Why not? If somebody wants to do it, why not?
Tell us about your uncle and aunt. I know Elsa Rocha is a big name in Goan writing in Portuguese, and so is Leopold Rocha. And just today, when I was going through our old correspondence, I realized that I had not replied to your request to send me a copy, to send you a copy of Dr. Leopold Rocha's
Confraria years
yeah,
Confraria years ago.
his thesis on Confrarias de Goa. So Dr. Rocha is still active writing in Portugal, and Elsa, of course, has passed away.
Yeah, this what you call it.
Tell us about both of them. They are your aunt and uncle. So,
Yeah, they are my mother's siblings. They are my mother's siblings, Elsa and Leopoldo. And frankly speaking, I had not read any of Elsa's writings until somebody, the person asked me to do some little Konkani translate, and then it is that I had read about her. But Leopold, yes, Leopold, whenever he writes something, can you hear?
Yeah, sure. Carry on. Yes, fine.
Leopold, whenever he writes something and he writes a lot of things, he usually sends me a copy of his book or something like that. And he writes so beautifully. He writes really very well that, I'm really taken up by his writings because they are more to do with, history and things like that. And he gives a good perspective of what was happening where, at the thing. He's
Leopold
written
was a professor in Rashol, no?
He was a professor. I think he used to teach canon law and Arti Sakra, if I'm not mistaken. I really don't know, but I think canon law or Arti Sakra or something like that. Yeah.
Sacred art.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And because he was in Rashol, which is close to us in Verna, he used to drop in frequently and to visit my mother. And one thing about Leopold is that whenever he came or wherever he went, he never gave you gifts of something. He used to buy books for you. I mean, he bought a lot of books for me, and I remember lovely books, and he's brought a lot of books. He used to always buy books for us. And, that is, I think, and I know that when I came down from East Africa, I hardly knew this. He is the one who taught me the alphabet. So, I have great regard for him. I do.
Alphabet in Portuguese?
Yes, that time when I am the person who just reached Goa, and about in a year's time, there was the liberation. And we switched on to English, but I started with Portuguese. Yeah.
So you all spoke Portuguese at home, but you all were based in Kenya, which was English speaking. So then
I think I was very lucky that my mother thought that if we went to Goa, then my grandparents would be at a loss. Vilas, please come here. Hello.
Yeah, carry on. It's fine.
Then my mother thought it would be anything. This is what she did. She thought that we would be at a loss and we wouldn't be able to speak to my grandparents, Frederick, I can't see you.
No. Off and on, I might focus on you. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong. It's
I said she decided to teach us. We spoke Portuguese even in Kenya. Okay. She said if we came home and our grandparents didn't know English, and we didn't know any other language, So she decided to teach us Portuguese, and we spoke Portuguese throughout, But it was thing was that within a few months, when we were in whether in Berna or whether in Aldona, we immediately picked up Konkani. We
I
could
see.
speak Konkani within 3 months. I think I was fluent. We could speak very well.
Really?
Yeah, really. I think could be that we were very young also. I was 6 and my sister was 3, So we could speak Konkani fluently, where there was never any problem. And my neighbors, we went to play with my neighbors and all, they spoke Konkani. So I think it accelerated the whole this rhythm, and we spoke Konkani in few mere months.
Of course, children can learn any number of languages, and
Yes,
Goa
yes,
was very much of a Konkani speaking place in
Konkani.
those days. And you
Even
learn,
now, people.
yes, even now. But you learn both the dialects then, Sashti and Badesi.
Nah, the thing is, my Konkani is a very strange Konkani. It is because my mother is from Bardesh. We always spoke Bardesh Konkani. But my words, because I've lived so long in Salsit, my words are Salsit words, They're Salsit words. And now I speak a lot of Salsit Konkani. But generally, the tone is of Bardesh. So a lot of people tease me here. They tease me that because I speak in the Bardesh cadence, but I use Salsit words. Yeah.
Talking about this point, Sashti has not been studied or taught at any level, no, up to now.
Sashti means what? The Konkani?
The dialect, yeah.
No, it is Sashti dialect is a mixture of lot. It used to have a lot of Portuguese words in it. The Sashti Konkani had a lot of Portuguese words, still has, but now English is creeping in. You have a lot of English words in it now.
So when you're writing it, how do you manage? You're using accents for Shashti also to get the sounds?
Yes, I use accents because I know Konkani, so I know. So for example, if I want to write go as in
Yeah.
agoyo, then I write go. It is a closed door, so I use the appropriate accent.
Which is the circumflex or what?
Circumflex, yeah, circumflex. That is because I know both the Konkani and Portuguese. That helps me in the accenting of the language.
Right.
You cannot write Konkani without accent. You just can't. I don't know if others can write it. If you wrote Devanagari, probably it would sound much better.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get your point because you're saying that there are so many sounds and we are trying to reduce all these sounds into the 26 or less alphabets of the Roman script, which is a problem. But the other counter argument might be that, like English, although we spell it one way, we pronounce it some other way, and people know the difference. No, I don't know. I don't know. But Sonia, would there be a different vocabulary for Sashti? Is there any listing? Could you create a listing of the words which are totally different in the Salsette dialect, for example?
For that, I should you different from Bardesh or different because in Goa there are a lot of Konkanis. If you really go to see, in Perne they speak a totally different Konkani. It is a mixture of Marathi, Konkani, and all. All the people in Usgaon and all speak a different Konkani. They speak a different Konkani. You can understand. But there are a lot of words. Bardesh itself now, as compared to what are you saying that it was?
As compared to everything else, what are the different words? Give us some examples of different Sashti words which are unique to Salsette, for example, which are not used elsewhere.
And for example, you for banana, I saw a very funny thing. For banana, you'll say,
Kelly.
We say kedi, but there you all don't say ke.
Yeah, in some parts.
Ke. So we say kedi. Actually, not such a big difference. Only the way we pronounce things may be something slightly different.
Piskati and Suri, Mukar and Fude and
Mukar. We say mukar. We don't say fude.
Yeah, because that once you cross the Zuari River, then they say Mukar Watts,
Mukaros, Fudeos, Mukaros. We say Evatin and Tevatin. You say Ikre and Tikre, I think, no? We say Evatinos, Tevatinos, so Mukar.
That is
We don't say poi, we say choi.
Yeah.
And when we don't say poi, for us is that baker's bread, poi.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, once you speak, you know.
But the language has not been studied at all. There was a PhD on a certain aspect of I just came across it on a certain aspect. One small community in one small village, and it's in Devanagari on Sashti Konkani, but it's written in Devanagari because the current requirement. Anyway. But I just forgot to ask you about Elsa Rocha, your aunt. She was a specialist in short stories, right? And
She
Dr.
wrote a lot of short stories. Yes,
Paul Melo Castro in the University of Leeds,
he's
Glasgow is working on it currently, right?
yes, he's translating the stories. I think he's done a lot of translation, but I think she wrote quite a number of stories. I read only one and I liked it very much. It is U Manilyeru. That's a
Tell
very
us, tell us about it.
they tell us about. I read it long ago. It is about somebody who I don't know if you all have it in Bangladesh. We have the chudo. We
Yeah,
just
before the wedding.
uh, before you get married, the bride wears the chudo, different colored bangles and all that. And how the this what you call it. This is long written about 50, 60 years back. So the Manileru, the man who sells the bangle seller, came home to sell these bangles to the people, and then what happened was that the bridegroom's mother sort of is completely mesmerized by this bangle seller, by this bangle seller, Umaniero. And then the bride's mother, who had a sort of I wouldn't say had a lot of, which that's a very strong word, but she had a sort of, she realized what was happening and she didn't like it one bit. And I think you should read the story. It's a very beautiful story. And because it will spoil the story if I say
Yeah,
that.
no plot spoilers. No plot
Yeah, so I
spoilers.
don't want to say it because I think that is one of her best stories.
I
Manila is
see.
one of
I
a
see.
very beautiful
What
story.
what is the fascinating thing, Sonia, is that in the past there was this strong short story writing culture in Goa, in the Portuguese world, and it hardly survives today in English. It's not very strong. It's there. Fundasa Orient has a competition once a year
Yes, yes.
and things like that. But
But Frederick, I don't know if it is short, but when I was in this university, I saw that this Konkani department, Marathi, and even not Hindi, but these two departments I knew because Madhavi was a good friend of mine.
Madhavi
So
Sadesai, Madhavi
yeah,
Sadesai.
she used to talk about so many things that they were doing in their department, and I think they used to write periodically short stories and things like that. We also
Sonia,
wrote something.
Sonia, that's the point. That's the point. See, Konkani and Marathi still have these traditions, and they are encouraging it with their. They have these Diwali and Chaturthi Anks, the special volumes, no.
Oh yes, yes,
A-
yes.
and Madhavi had a literary journal. Poor thing, she died early in early
Yeah.
50s. That was a loss. But these two languages have this tradition, but in English there's a kind of disjunct because the newspapers are not encouraging it, unlike in the past, where the Portuguese papers used to carry short stories.
Yeah. They used to
And
carry
yeah,
short
yeah,
Raul
yeah,
and Veed and all those people
yeah,
used to
and
carry.
in fact, the only magazine which used to carry short stories, Goa Today, is now temporarily suspended, or in that sense.
Yeah.
So that is also a problem. But having said that, there are individuals like Paul Melo Castro, based halfway around the world in the UK, and who are doing excellent work in trying to revive and re-understand the stories of
No, but
another era.
in that I know this because Leopold used to write often to these newspapers. There used
Yeah,
to be little polemics they used to have that were very interesting. A topic was given, somebody used to write something, and then some nasty things used to come. They used to write, and it was a very entertaining thing for everybody who read it. It was very entertaining, because they used to pick up something, and then it was very intense. You don't have that thing now. It's basically news like this, but this was more social and things socially.
opinion, comment, and social realities
Yes,
about
they
that.
would. Somebody would write. Oh, I remember this very ongoing polemic. There was somebody in Margaon who had married, and the person, somebody from Margaon, wrote a very. They used to write before about which wedding it was. It was very good and things like that, and so then, and he ended up by saying, "Oh, this was one of those stellar, good Christian weddings. Casamento cristão," he writes there. So Leopold Rocher replies to him and says, just for the heck of it, you mean to say that the other weddings that are solemnized in the church are not Christian weddings? And then it went on for a long time. It was a discussion of various things, and it was very interesting. Everybody, a lot of people took part in it. A lot of people read for it. A lot of people waited for the newspaper because newspapers to come through the post office. And that's it.
every part of Goa is so different in itself, and we don't understand it often, and we probably don't do justice
Yes,
to it.
we really don't. Yeah. I now I've lost touch with Bangladesh. It's been such a long time since I lived there for a short time when I was a very small child, and we used to go for holidays every year, twice or thrice a year. But now I've not been to Bangladesh, not lived in Bangladesh for a long time. I myself have lost touch with Bangladesh now.
The Roshas are from Aldona,
They are from Aldona, yes.
the house on the riverfront in that sense, no?
Yeah, this
I
house.
see. So tell us about growing up in Bangladesh in those years. What was it like?
It was very nice, really very nice. The thing is, I was a very young child. I was about 6 and 7, and I was there for 3 years, 6, 7, 8 years old. Because my village didn't have a school, and I went attended. This was after liberation. There was a school close by near the in the chapel, where I did that for primera class and second primera class.
Where in Aldona or where now?
Aldona.
Aldona.
There was the chapel. They have a big chapel, Our Lady of Piedad, and then there I did my first standard, and then the liberation came, and then I switched on to English. There was no English school in my village of Verna, so I went to the convent there,
St. Thomas Girls.
Yeah, St. Thomas Girls High School. It was very nice. But and the thing is, my aunt Elsa she was a teacher herself. She went to various places, and you had to stay there. She went to Asagaon and Seoli, and she stood there. I was there alone with my grandparents, and it was I was a very small child. My grandparents were this, but it was very nice, because. First of all, my grandparents, my grandfather was a lawyer and then a judge. He spoke perfect Portuguese. So that was something very good, because I learned very good Portuguese because I was with them. I really learned it. Everybody spoke Portuguese. And then he had one more thing, that in the evening, you didn't go you at about 7, the lamps were lit and all, and then you read something. There was no TV, so you read something, and everybody read something. He read something. My uncles, somebody read something, and I also read something. There were books for me too, so I read something. It was a different, and I was given a free rein. Okay, I used to go, like for example, I wrote that during Ganesh, I used to go to every lot of Hindu houses. Aldona is predominantly Hindu, so I used to go and visit all the Hindu houses to see the Ganesh Matodis and all that thing. It was this. I had lot of this, what you call it, friends from Aldona with whom I used to play and all. It was a good. It was slightly lonely, but I think it was a good thing, because it was very this. And my grandparents, my grandfather particularly taught me a lot of things. He taught me, of course, I read a lot, and then he taught me to even play Rami cards game, because I was ill, and
which was the old gentleman's game.
Yeah, and then I used to then he used to evening, then he used to after he used to say let's play, and then I used to sit on the table, on the table, and he was down. I could see all his cards, every card of his, and invariably out of the 5 games, I used to win 3 games at least, 3 to 4 games, and 1 game if you won, it was just because I had not seen the cards properly. It was very nice. It was. I really had a nice time there. It was a very good experience.
Just a comment from our colleague, Dr. Aida Dorado, who actually is has been at the Women's Studies Department, and she has done her PhD on the Coods in Bombay, actually. So she's appreciating your point of view, because this is a Goa which doesn't get discussed or written about much. So I'm sure that it has a lot of interest when we talk about these things. Sonia, as you were mentioning your sister, of course, your younger sister is Dr. Helga Gomes, who was with
that's right.
And went to Antarctica and has traveled on board of many oceanographic expeditions.
Vessels, yeah.
So anyway, but one question I wanted to ask you, as a writer yourself, what do you feel could be done to get more writing into readership? I'm not saying into print. It may be online. It may be, finding the readers and all. It's a bit of a struggle, I think. But Goa seems to be slow at that. What are your suggestions? How do we move ahead from here?
I think people, the thing is, Frederick, there are so many. Before, like I was telling you, when my uncle and all wrote for those newspapers, that was the only entertainment of the day, sort of. You waited for the newspaper, the postman would bring you the newspaper and you read it. Now there is so much of entertainment. There is the TV, which people don't even bother. Then there is all those Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and all those people. And it takes, if you want to read something long, then you don't want to read that long, and you just skim through it and move on, move on. But people do read if they like something, because I feel that my blog, people did read a lot and people wrote to me. So I think those people who want something from 60s and all, and who found something similar to their lives, read it. It just depends on what you do.
So in your case, what you're saying is that your blog helped you to find your niche audience, the audience you were
That's
looking out
true.
for.
Yeah, niche audience. I
And
found.
you would recommend people having their own blog and writing on these.
Why not? I mean, not as. Why shouldn't you have your own blog? I mean, it should be there. No?
Very easy to start, and there's no
A blog is such an easy thing to start. You don't need to go through it. Now everything, whatever you want to do on the online is so very easy. You don't need to be so tech savvy. So you just switch it on and you start writing whatever. But you should be able to write properly so that somebody would read it. And invariably, there are so many people writing about recipes and all, and wonderful recipes. They keep on writing about this, and they have huge followings of people. People do read a lot of things. It depends what you like, actually. I was lucky because it struck a chord with a lot of people around my age or a little bit younger or older, who said, okay, fine, this is a more of a sort of let's go back in time sort of thing.
So what topics you're saying should be written on today? What would you suggest? Which are the untouched topics?
No, the untouched topic, in my opinion, is you really, if you really want to go, you should touch this migration, the positive. See, a lot of people say, oh, those people who go to London, they stay in one room and they make. You should touch on the positive aspect of what really happens in London. How is it beneficial to people? How they are improving themselves. See, there are negative things in Goa also, but I have seen more negativity towards people going and staying in London, and it's really a lot of people have said it even in churches and all. I think we could encourage people who are, leaving everything behind and going to a new place and learning new things is not easy,
That's true.
You and I was young, but you must be remembering your Africa, how difficult it was to go there and then come back here and make your life for yourself. It's not so easy, is it?
I was never in Africa. People mistake me for being an African. My folks were in Brazil, of all places. But they were English speaking. Goans who went to Brazil. So we always.
Oh, I didn't know you were Brazil.
Yeah.
Brazil.
And we, my parents did pick it up and spoke it, and people laughed at them when they spoke their Portuguese with their Brazilian
accent. Yeah.
But coming back to your earlier point that that people look down on these migrants. Okay, everywhere we have to start in the hard way, and even when the Badeskars went to Bombay or when they went to East Africa, in the initial stages, I'm sure they had it tough. Okay, if the Coots were not there, if that support structure was not there, they struggled. Wendell, who was such a great figure, writes about growing up in a chawl and how they had to wait for their turn in a bathroom and all these kind of things.
Yes. Yeah.
So we can focus on whichever aspect we want to, but that we also have to focus on the positive, as you're saying.
The positive part of it.
Yeah, because their achievements over generations has actually been quite a glorious story, which we are forgetting, and we are looking only at the negatives in that sense. No?
The other thing is, people will look on the negative this and say, oh, you have to see, transport is very expensive in London. So a lot of people, somebody told me, we walk a lot. So I said, good, you had put on so much weight. Now you lost a lot of weight. You're looking much better. So Sheila, they work very hard. It's not like in Goa, they work very hard. You should encourage them instead of saying, oh, ita tinga, dasan lok rauta, ekaroman and all. These are you go there to make money. You go there for experiences. If you're going to stay in a posh house, you wouldn't have much money at the end of it, no?
So Sonia, tell us.
And then there are a lot of people who say this English person knock. They don't know English. They speak very, this is the wave of Africans earlier. They don't speak proper English and all. Come on, they've gone there to learn things.
Both ways you'll criticize them. If they don't speak Konkani, you'll criticize them for not speaking Konkani. And if they speak
Yeah.
Konkani, then you'll say that
Yeah,
they don't know
they're
English.
speaking it. That's true. That's true. They say, oh, they only do one thing. They speak a lot of Konkani and all. If you don't speak Konkani, then you say, oh, they think they've forgotten their mother tongue. Now they will live in English. That's they'll say. That's the way it is.
So tell us lastly, how many posts in your blog, and just a rough idea of what the topics are, more or less. Just estimate.
Fred, I don't know how many posts there are in my blog. I really didn't.
40, 50, 60, 20, 30?
I think so. Yeah, should be. You
What range of numbers? So it has to be one of them has to be right.
No, I don't know. Okay. And what else did you ask?
And what are the topics that?
But my blog is basically everything which happens in my village or happened in my village, with a lot of embellishments, of course. And I never give a lot of embellishment. Lot of things that happened in my village or are happening in my village and things like that. Basically, I don't do stray from anybody there.
So Dr. Ida is commenting that it's a very.
I know she's written very far. Thank you so much, Dr. Ida.
Yeah, and at some stage she's going to be one of my victims next.
Oh, really?
Don't
call us a victim.
But
don't call us your victim. At least I feel very nice you called me. It was very.
No, I mean everyone.
I got a chance to jabber, which I don't get a chance,
Everyone is my victim. They are. It's not a very painful process, but you all are victims nonetheless. Anyway, but I think but jokes apart, I think we need to keep these records of these small things which make up the Goan spice and the Goan life.
Yes.
And if there's anything I've not asked and you'd like to add, please, this is your time. Then maybe you can ask me a question.
I know. I'm surprised. I thought you were always East Africa, but now I know that you are from Brazil.
Everyone mistakes me for being an African. I went there once in 2005. Lovely place. I got a chance to go and do some blogging there, and it was I got paid for the blogging, and it was some tech blogging. Lovely stint on the banks of Lake. What's it? Lake Victoria and some Sese Islands or something in Uganda. And Lake Victoria is huge. Like it's as big as a big Indian state or whatever it is.
Oh, really?
Yeah, touching on two, three countries there, no? And it goes on, and the skies are bluer. The people are nicer. There was an element in those days of hotel thefts and things like that. One lady in the camp lost her laptop and things like that. But the people are so nice, they are so warm, they are so friendly. And then I understood why Goans went there and fell in love with the place. The skies are bluer and the trees are taller. That's it. And there is like the food is partly India influenced chapatis and wheat and
because there are a lot of Gujaratis there. There used to be. I don't know what is happening now, but there used to be a lot.
You've not been back. No plans to go back to see.
Africa is too far, Frederick, from here. It's really
not really. There are these airlines, Ethiopia and all, which do a good job of connecting the place. Of course, you still have to go by Addis and whatever it is, but
it is. But you can. Nowadays, with all these things, nothing is impossible. Did you 10-15 years back we would be chatting from miles across? Nothing is impossible now.
And now only 30 miles and 30 kilometers, and still we can talk online. So thanks to
online and properly and without any problem. So.
Doctor, I thank you so much for the time and for the inputs, and I really hope that one last time maybe I should mention your blog so that the people can visit it. And
that's nice of you.
No, it's my pleasure. Keep on writing. We are looking forward to a lot more, because each of your pieces gives us a new insight to Goa, which we think we know, but we don't really understand. And there are many Goans, there are many Konkanis, there are many realities.
Write something about Bardesh. We don't know. We in South Sea don't know anything about Bardesh. Why don't you?
I am the postman.
Who would write something about Bardesh?
I'm waiting for other people to write, but having said that, I have encouraged, if I can claim that, I've pushed other people into writing, Father Nasimand and a whole lot of others. But there is still scope for hundreds, if not thousands, of versions of Goa to come out.
That's what true. Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you so much for your time.
Frederick, I must thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk so much, because nobody listens to me otherwise, and now I got a chance to talk away to glory. Thank you so much. Really nice of you.
Thank you.